President Trump tweeted just a little while ago that he met with A.G. Sulzberger, the relatively new publisher of the New York Times, at the White House recently, and that they talked about the vast amounts of fake news being put out by the media. Trump says it was a good meeting. I wonder what actually happened in the meeting. Well, now we know. In the past few minutes, A.G. Sulzberger has issued a statement where he explains why he decided to meet with Trump in the first place. He says it was supposed to be off the record, but now that Trump's putting it on the record, here's the response. My main purpose for accepting the meeting was to raise concerns about the president's deeply troubling anti-press rhetoric. I told the president directly that I thought his language about enemies of the people was not just divisive, but increasingly dangerous. I told him that although the phrase fake news is untrue and harmful, I am far more concerned about his labeling journalists the enemy of the people. I warned that this inflammatory language is contributing to a rise in threats against journalists and will lead to violence. That's the new publisher of the New York Times, A.G. Sulzberger, in a statement about his meeting with President Trump. All of this comes at a time when Trump is keeping his distance from the press corps. He's tweeting a lot, but he hasn't answered a single question from reporters since Wednesday. That's the day, you remember, this happened.
Did Michael Cohen betray you, Mr. President? Did Michael Cohen betray you? Mr. President, are you worried about what Michael Cohen is going to say to prosecutors? Are you worried about what is on the other tapes, Mr. President? Why has Vladimir Putin not accepted your invitation?
Those were the key questions asked by CNN's Caitlin Collins. She was acting as the pool reporter for all the TV networks. And as you know, the response from the White House was to disinvite her. That means ban her from a gathering later in the day that was open to all press. So that was way back on Wednesday. Ever since then, every time the reporters have been able to shout questions near the president, he hasn't responded. It's really telling that he's avoiding any opportunities or any interactions with the press corps. I think it shows that Caitlin's questions were spot on. These issues about Cohen and about his twisted relationship with Putin, these are big stories, and we're not getting any answers from Trump. Let's talk about it with our panel now. Olivier Knox is here. He's the brand new president of the White House Correspondents Association and the chief Washington correspondent for Sirius XM. Katie Rogers is here, White House correspondent for the New York Times. And S.E. Cupp is here, the host of HLN's S.E. Cupp Unfiltered. Katie, lucky you. You've got the president talking about your newspaper today. What do you make of the president's decision to make this, private meeting with your boss, the publisher, all of a sudden a public spat?
Well, I think AG's statement really stands on its own and for itself. I agree as a reporter that the president's words about journalism broadly definitely have weight out in the field when we go cover rallies. The president rallied in my hometown about 6 weeks ago. It's very clear that his rhetoric about enemy of the people is resonating across the country. And he is the president. What he says matters. And as a reporter, you go into the field talking to Republican voters, having to hear that, it's fake news, we're enemies, and it adds a different component to our jobs broadly. The president is entitled to feel however he wants about the coverage about him. Other presidents have done the same. What is different is that this president is coming out and calling us enemies of the people.
Tell me about Wednesday, Olivier, when this incident happened with Caitlin Collins. The news broke right before your radio show started on Sirius XM, but within an hour, you were out with a pretty strong statement condemning the White House's actions. Are you trying to take a harder line when it comes to the White House trying to punish reporters? Are you trying to show solidarity?
Well, remember what the WHCA does, and that is that we advocate on behalf of the men and women who cover the White House, who try to bring Americans news about the president, the presidency, what the government is doing in their name. We want to make sure that when there are television pictures coming from the White House, they're coming from the news media. When there are photos, they come from the news photographers, radio sound by the radio folks. And of course, to try to get as many opportunities to ask questions of senior officials up to and including the president. That's our core function. In this instance, you're right. It broke right before my radio show. I had my board operator basically muting my microphone in between questions for my first interview as I frantically typed on my laptop.
Wow.
It's important to understand this wasn't just a defense of CNN. It wasn't just a defense of Caitlin Collins. And I think what you saw in the unanimity of response across platforms, across news outlets, Fox News jumping in, other outlets coming out with their own strong statements, was the sense that it could be someone else tomorrow. It could be someone else in the next administration. And that's what led to this kind of unanimity of spirit. it struck at one of our core functions. Again, Caitlin was basically told she could not attend an event that literally every other credentialed reporter on the White House grounds that day could attend. It was important that we draw a line there, and that we explain to people why that wasn't okay.
The Washington Post reported that Trump has wanted to do this before, that he has wanted to block certain reporters from coming to events. The Post names Jim Acosta and April Ryan as two of those reporters. A one-word question for you, S.E. Surprised?
No. Trump has, I think, in business and life, operated as a sort of punitive force. I think he really likes to punish people, to sort of send a message or make examples or look like the strong man, the tough guy. And he's long wanted to punish the press, and labeling us fake news, labeling us the enemy of the people has actually been very effective. As you know, trust in the media is at an all-time low. So this is having a significant impact. The difference now, I think, is that finally our news institution, our media, our press is sort of uniting around, in solidarity, around each other. And that is something you and I, Brian, have talked about a number of times that we used to see in past administrations. Jake Tapper calling out President Obama for discrediting Fox News, or other organizations calling out the Obama administration for targeting the AP, or trying to keep Fox out of the press pool for an interview. There were those moments of solidarity. They had not happened under Trump until the past few weeks, starting with John Roberts of Fox really sort of being pressured to make a statement about Trump's calling CNN and Jim Acosta not a real news network. He eventually did release a statement defending CNN. The week following that, you had Hallie Jackson, an NBC News reporter, who was trying to press Sarah Sanders in a press briefing. She wasn't getting answers. Another Hill reporter ceded his time back to her. Those moments of solidarity, including the Caitlin Collins incident, are a really welcome a show of strength and show of force that I think has really taken too long.
Yeah, there have been several episodes, but Olivia, let me be cynical for a second. Are we really going to see this frequently, or were these just one-offs?
Well, most of the time you don't see it at all, because what we're doing is we're having this conversation behind the scenes. The WHCA is meeting with Sarah Sanders and other communications officials to work out our problems behind the scenes. And again, it's not typically this heated. What we often have debates and arguments about how much the press will see on a foreign trip, for example. Can we get the pool, that is to say, the small group of 13 or so outlets that follow the president everywhere? Can we make sure that they stay in the motorcade? Can we make sure that they see the president actually meet with, say, British Prime Minister Theresa May? So a lot of the solidarity, a lot of the work is happening behind the scenes. But this was a very public moment. They made a decision to exclude Caitlin Collins of CNN from an event from which literally every other credentialed reporter at the White House that day could attend.
Yeah, and it seems like, if Trump has been wanting this for a long time, the X factor here was Bill Shine. He's new on the job. He's a new comms chief. Maybe he just kind of fell for it, and now he saw the reaction. Hey, real quick, one more story to touch on, Katie. You and Maggie Haberman reported this week about an amazing leak out of the White House. It was this email that showed how Trump was angry when he boarded Air Force One and saw that Melania's TV was tuned to CNN. What happened here? He wants all the TVs tuned to Fox?
He wants all the TVs tuned to Fox. It's now standard operating procedure when the president boards Air Force One that all TVs will be on Fox. When he returns to his hotel suite when traveling, the TVs will be tuned to Fox. I think with the emails, the emails are they're a smaller example of this broader issue going on, that the president does not want to take in opposing or possibly opposing views. And he's at a phase in his presidency where he does not want to hear anything other than his own messaging or supportive messaging. And the emails are just a small example that illustrate this larger issue.
And Melania Trump won. Her team put out a statement saying she will watch whatever channel she wants.
And she did give that statement to your network.
That's right. That's right. Of all the places she could have issued that statement to, she gave it to CNN.